Oh, I'm like, okay, so we're gonna do a quick roll call for the trainers, and then whoever is on from the core team, let them do like a hello if they're on. And I'll go through kind of what they'll be doing, and then we'll review the training schedule, and an overview of the local training schedule and structure. So if you're here, I know Kelly sent this email out. If you're here as kind of an auxiliary person from an LVIA who doesn't have a regional trainer, like the trainer is like Tori's the trainer and you're here from 18, it's not super necessary that you are on this call, but you're definitely welcome. And then we'll go through a local training expectation and checklist and some follow-up homework. Let me pull up so I can see the chat. Okay. So let's see. I see Robert's here. Is Joel here? Yep, I see Joel. And then from 7, Tina, Rosa, Nicole, Cassie. See Nicole, Cassie.
Rosa's. Yes, this is Rosa. Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning. It's Nicole from 7.
Awesome. And then I also see Amy from 7. All right, Lisa's here from 10 and 11.
Yeah, I'm here. Sorry.
David here. Hi. Tori's here from 17.
I'm here.
Sandy or Haley? Let's see. I see Sandy and Haley, and then Robert Engel. Okay, I don't see Robert. That's okay. Okay. So I think we've talked about this, so I'll quickly go over it. We are taking, as you know, IWDS 2.0 really seriously internally at OET. So what we've done is kind of constructed a core team who will go through training along with you all, the regional trainers. So they'll come to Tuesday meetings and Thursday meetings, participate in as many UAT modules as possible. And then at the end, they'll help facilitate IWDS 2.0 training just like you are. But instead of them focusing on the local areas like the regional trainers will, they'll first train some members of our OET staff that are kind of front facing and then serve as coaches both internally and externally. Our goal is that everyone in OET will at least have an overview of 2.0, and depending on their job, they'll have kind of a more detailed look or become super users. So is anyone from our OET core team on and want to pop off mute and introduce themselves to the group?
Hi, I'm Kristen Orville. I'm with the Springfield office. Excited to be part of the core team. I do rapid response and monitoring as my primary job functions.
Thanks, Kristen. Mark or Shannon, do you want to introduce yourself to the group?
Yeah, thanks. I think everyone knows me. Mark, just the performance manager and EPPL coordinator for here at OET. I look forward to working with all of you moving forward. I appreciate all of you joining in this effort.
Thanks, Mark. Shannon?
Shannon Hampton, OET as well. Grants unit.
Thanks, Shannon. And then we have members from Illinois Center for Specialized Professional Support and SAPDC. Those members will kind of be interchangeable as we move forward, but they'll also be a part of this core group. So we have Antonio Gomez. Antonio, do you want to introduce yourself to the group?
Absolutely. I am one of the Workforce Innovation Coordinators at ICSPS based out of ISU. We're a professional development center. We will be giving some of the trainings here, and we will also be participating along with you guys. And we'll be taking some notes for the rest of our team as well. So you'll see a couple of us from ICSPS.
Thanks, Antonio. And then we have Tara from SAPDC.
Good morning. I'm Tara Schwab from the Southern Illinois Professional Development Center. We provide professional development to adult ed and partner with ICSPS to help support and provide amongst our core partners as well. And you'll see myself and other members of my team at SIPDC, along with those from ICSPS, in these meetings. So we're happy to be here.
Thanks, Tara. All right, I don't think I missed anyone. I'll pause really quick to look over. Okay, so I think everyone's introduced themselves, which is
Well, hi
great.
there. This is Ray.
Oh, hey, Ray, sorry.
I just want to introduce myself. I'm Ray Alameen. I'm part of the performance group. I work with both Mark and Paula, and I'll be part of the core team. So looking forward to the opportunity to meet with you and get through IWDS 2.0.
Thanks, Ray. There's a couple other members who weren't able to be a part of this call. And again, our goal is for both the local areas and for you all as trainers to have touch points at OET who've kind of gone through the same next few months. And so you have someone to reach out to if there's a question. Okay, I'm going to go on to our next item, which is just kind of centering ourselves in what we're doing. So again, we're going to be using a customer-centered lens for all of our work. The goal is to make the process clear, easier, and more supportive for customers. Okay. So this is pretty tiny. I'm going to zoom in. This is kind of a table version of the flow chart that Gina's created of the different training elements from now until July 1. So today we're going to be talking about the trainer responsibilities for scheduling training in the local areas. This Friday, we have a meeting set with the local area directors. We'll be reviewing kind of the new customer flow that you all saw last week, so that they're aware that any potential impacts that could have on local policy or procedures. Then we'll go into some trainer responsibilities for communication and some follow-up logistical PD next week. This 2-4 Jody Sue Kelly Customer Center Design, I'll be sending you all the registration for this. Jody Sue Kelly, which I believe most of you went through, did a customer center design series for a lot of folks. We've asked her to come back and do kind of one high level review of customer center design for everyone. So again, we're just centering our work in that lens. Then beginning the second week of February, we'll go over the kind of self-service portal, like the beginning of a customer's journey or what could an option of a customer journey. And then we'll go through the process. So we'll start with self-service. The next week, we'll talk about intake and eligibility, then the assessment process, career planning, and then we'll do kind of a referral system, professional development and understanding. The referral system kind of sits within career planning and then also is a little bit removed. Then we have a series brought to us by ISU and SIPDC on different professional development elements we think that the trainers will need to have as they, begin training their region. So change management and helpful things to know about adult learners. We have Tara from SIPDC and her colleagues are really well versed in that. Then we'll go over some kind of virtual tools and learn how to do Zoom and different elements of like Zoom poll or doodle polls and things like that. And then at the end of March, we'll go over like public speaking, facilitation, and again, adult learning principles. Then we have this 4-6 through 4-7 in April, where we'll virtually go over IWDS. So there'll be an overview and ensure everybody has access to the system and kind of a real introductory to this IWDS in-person end-to-end training, which will be focused on the system. It'll start at the beginning of the system and then go all the way through the end. That'll be 2 days in person. The bolded things in this table are in person or what we're doing today. After the end-to-end training, we'll go to do a trainer boot camp, which is going to be facilitated by Gina at AIR. And that's really taking everything that we've learned, both policy, procedure, and practice, mirroring it to the system and teaching everyone how to train on the system. We'll have a little break in between where we go over, again, our training plans and a final review and have time to answer questions. We'll come back together in person to do kind of a dress rehearsal for one day before the Illinois Workforce Summit. Then we have the Illinois Workforce Summit May 7th through the 8th. And then you all will begin regional training, and our OET staff will begin our core team will begin training our OET staff. Does anyone have any questions? And we went over this last week, and this is more of a interactive view of it over the training schedule that we have set.
Yeah, this is Joel. I have a question.
Yeah.
For the May the 6th in summit, the pre-summit in person.
Yeah.
When we tried to get rooms, they were booked. The block had already been taken up. So is there any way that somebody at DCO can add some rooms to the block? The same thing happened. I was able to get a room, but Carrie was not for the 7th and 8th for the 7th. So you may need to add some rooms to that block to accommodate the number.
Our event manager at ICSPS is looking into that. But thank you for bringing that to our attention. We'll let you know when we've got more rooms.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Antonio. Nicole?
Hi, is the Illinois Summit in person as well?
Yes. The Illinois Summit is in person.
So essentially we'll be there from the 6th to the 8th.
Yes.
Okay, just wanted to clear that up.
I know there's quite a few of you from LBS 7, so I think we can talk about, and we're still finalizing how you all, the regional trainers and the OET core team, can be a part of any session that we have about IWDS 2.0. I know Tori asked last week, as far as registering for the summit, are you all speakers, etc. We're hoping to kind of finalize that this week so you all know how to register for that event.
I just wanted to be clear on if we're there from the 6th to the 8th. Just wanted to make sure that I was clear on that.
Yep.
And not just there on the 6th.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Perfect. And Robert?
Yes, I had some of the same question as far as the hotel staying that Joel was talking about. I know it's me. I might have one other person coming from local area 1, but it's just to find a place to stay is one of my concerns for the April and maybe also for the May Illinois Workforce Summit as well. I guess y'all kind of somewhat answered the question earlier.
Well, and I should preface, so the 2 trainings in April, so the in-person end-to-end IWS 2.0 training on the system and the trainer boot camp, they'll both be in Bloomington on the Illinois State University campus. So these 2 I'll highlight will be in Bloomington. So, and those should be on the calendar invite. And then this series of events will be in Peoria. So I will be sending out or finalizing the registration for this, the pre-session. That should be finalized, I think, today. And then I'll be sending out an email here are all the events to register for, and all of the details so you have it in one place.
So we basically coming down there on the 14th. So with that 14 being case management workflow, I guess we leave to come down to Bloomington, you said?
Yes, the 15th and 16th are in Bloomington. So we can look at that case management overflow or workflow. When I was making this PowerPoint last night, I did have the thought, I think that people might be traveling in that day, and we can work internally to make sure whatever we're doing is a recap or something that we can kind of send to you to review in case you're traveling.
Okay, thank you.
And Crystal put, are the in-person trainings also going to have archived resources or even videos to refer back to? for those of us who have backup trainers. Crystal, that actually came up when I was giving an overview to our OET core team, that we'd really like to have the in-person sessions recorded. We're working on how that would logistically work with kind of the interactive nature of both of those trainings, but that is something that we're working towards. The resources like PowerPoints and handouts and things like that, you'll all have those, so you can share those with any backup trainers. But it is something we're working on. And Sandy, yes, I do have your other email. I'll send out agendas for each of these events because I know you and there's probably others who, in order to get their travel approved, need to have those agendas attached. So we'll get those to you. Okay. Any other questions about kind of the training cadence? Okay. Well, with that, I'll just do a quick review. So all of our trainers who are on the call, this is your training region. I'm sure you've seen it and you know it, but I just wanted to make sure we noted it here. So the regional trainers are going to be responsible for all the logistics for the in-person training for their training region. So that's what we're going to focus on today, kind of the logistic elements of scheduling in-person trainings. Gina at AIR did a great job of kind of doing an overview of what we think your checklist should be. So first identifying the number of career planners in each area of your region, and then determining training cohorts. We're recommending a maximum of 20 per cohort, but we understand that some of your regions that might not work exactly right, but we just want to make sure that you're training kind of a manageable group. So then after you determine how many people you'll need to train, really determine the amount of cohorts that you'll have. Next, you'll need to discuss and identify training spaces. So I've noted this in a future slide, but many of the areas, if not all of the areas, identified a training space that they'll have available with their application. So if you don't know that training space or that hasn't been communicated with you, I would ask your local director, hey, did we come in with a certain space that would be available for training? And next, you need to start identifying days between the middle of May, after you get all of your training, through the middle of June. So everyone in that region will have been trained for the July 1 IWDS 2.0 kind of debut. Before you nail anything down, it's then communicating with with your LWIB and then those in your training region to make sure they don't conflict with, let's say, like monitoring or a different event that they were having. Reserve the training space, and then you'll communicate with me kind of those dates that you're going to be training so I can have those in a master calendar. Set up registration, which we'll talk about, and then send invitations and confirm attendance. And then you'll go ahead and train. So I'll go through each in-person cohort. Will go through the same 2-day training that you all will actually receive. So again, you'll receive all of the materials ahead of time, and you'll have access to the career planners who you'll be teaching will have access to like micro teaches on each topic so that they'll be aware of the different system elements before you go into training. So you all will have been trained, and then we are scheduling virtual micro teaches on each of the elements that you'll be trained on. So the area will be well versed, and those will be available on a recording as well that you can share kind of prior to your training. I'm going to pause there and ask if there's any questions. Okay. And then I'm going to make you all come off mute.
Sarah,
Uh-huh.
this is Cassie from LWIA 7. I think the last time when we discussed this, I think I asked for was it going to be a copy of this for a reference? but I don't know if we received it or not.
Yeah, so we have our Kelly Trimble set up our teams that you all have access to, I
Okay.
think Friday. And then all I need to do is put the resources from the last January meetings on that, and then you'll have access to them. So
Thank you.
that should be, it's on the list. But yes, you'll have access to all this.
Thanks a lot. Thanks.
Yep. Tori?
So I know a few weeks back we worked on the spreadsheet where we contacted the other LWS to find out all the career planners. And then there was the discussion about youth like sub grantees or like youth providers and that sort of thing. So it's the vision that kind of, I guess for me, usually I'm over like five LWS. Do we kind of, is the discussion around just main career planners, or are we including like subgrade? And
I thought I
do we
looked,
leave that up to each
but I'll find the
local
most
area and
recent.
who they want to send? Any guidance around that?
And so you're talking about kind of providers that you all contract with.
Correct.
Yeah. So I would say inviting those, like a trainer person from each of those sub-grantees into your cohorts would be a good idea. And then LES 7, we're also having a conversation internally of how to bring your many providers on board so that there's like a multitude of trainers who are aware of this. So Tori, to your question, yes, I would include them in a cohort or at least one of the like a point person from those sub-grantees. We can talk more about if there's any challenges around that and how we can address it, either through kind of set training that I can provide or just like additional support if you don't think inviting like one or two people to your cohort would.
Okay. Yeah, I'll kind of discuss it then internally because I know we have sub-grantees and I think some of I mean, I'm sure the other LWS have it as well. So I'll just kind of have conversations with them and their thoughts there. But I believe we put all of the sub-grantees that would need training on our sheets, but I have to check the new LWS that were added. I'm not sure. So I'll look into theirs. I think that was 19 and 20 that got added. And I think you guys worked on that spreadsheet. Um, and do I have like access to it?
You should have access to it when everything gets moved over from our state teams onto the teams that Kelly created. I'll move all of those final spreadsheets over there. So you have access to those as well. But that's a
Okay.
question I would definitely ask those LWIAs in your region. Is this just, are there other sub-grantees that we need to make sure are included in this?
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So before we get into the training checklist, and I'll have Gina cover that, I wanted to ask what you all's comfort level is with the logistic portion of the training. So, how many of you have had experience scheduling or coordinating events like this?
At, define that a little bit more because I think we all had experience in scheduling meetings and stuff like that. Are you talking in a big group of people where we have 20 or more people and you're doing a presentation? Are you doing some training? Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah, so, and we can pop. We'll go through these same questions after Gina goes through the checklist of things to keep in mind as you're doing kind of the logistics of this. So my question specifically is, do you have experience finding a location, setting up a registration, and then for a group of 20, and then, coordinating that with like invites and making sure people attend. So I see David has had no experience and Cassie hasn't either. Does anybody have experience, or are we all starting from, we've set up meetings internally, but this is kind of the first time we'll be coordinating this on a larger scale?
I'm a newbie.
All right, Joel's new.
I'm going to be somewhat of a newbie, but I do schedule those things for bigger audience. I used to set them up for Jim Pod at our Lake County transportation place. I mean I do training, but I don't do it in a big group. I mean I probably could, but we never needed it because I do a lot of hands-on with individual or whatnot. So I'm gonna be somewhat a little bit new, but not too new to some extent.
Okay, awesome. Um, and then this next question, we'll go through the checklist first. And then Mark?
Yeah, so going back, I was just matching all this up to my calendar, and those 4, 6, and 7 dates are not on my calendar, so I don't know if that's something that still is going to be sent out, if it was overlooked. Maybe I just didn't get it, or if I'm not supposed to be on it. Anyway, just want to make sure everyone has all these dates on their calendars, and whether those are in person or they online, which is very difficult if that's the intent, just so we know what the expectations are on those dates, April 6th and 7th.
And Kelly and I actually touched base about this morning, and we'll be sending invites for those, I think here shortly too. Is that right, Kelly? Yep, she said they'll get them out, that she'll get them out this week.
Yes, the 4-7 one is just going to take place on our normal trainer call, but the one on the 6th, that one will be on calendars this week. But those will both be virtual.
Something not all day, or not yet determined.
Mark, your audio is a little bit choppy, so I didn't catch that last question.
Is it, are they all day or are they just an hour at the same time as our normal Tuesdays?
I think it's 90 minutes. Is that right, Kelly?
Yep, the one on Monday the 6th will be a 90-minute block, and the Tuesday one will just be the hour.
And Cassie?
Yes, I don't have invites to any of these trainings on my calendar.
Okay.
I didn't get an invite to anything.
I gotta look at mine too, 'cause I may not have these as well.
Okay, well, we double checked last week, but I'll make sure Carrie from our team and then Kelly, that these are all on your calendar after today. Okay, I'm gonna have Gina go through this in-person training checklist, and then we'll circle back to the other discussion questions.
Hi, everybody. So this is a work in progress. As we get further out from today, we may make some updates to this training checklist for you to add some level of detail, but we've tried to break it out into phases, and these are the steps as we currently understand them to get you from here to standing in front of a cohort of 20 of your career planners delivering your training. So if you look at the next slide, here are the January activities. So, reviewing the agenda and training objectives for the 16 hours of in-person training that you'll be delivering. And, Sarah gave you a great overview in slides earlier. We'll make sure that the full agenda is in your folder for you to look at when we update the files over to the folder that you can see. Determining your cohort size, so looking at the total number of folks you need to train, the space you have available, what your schedule looks like, aiming for a cohort of at most 20, but recognizing some flexibility there. And then setting training dates. So between May 15th and June 19th, scheduling the training the number of instances of training that you will need to hold in order to train everyone in your region or regions. Looking for space, and I'll go into a little more detail here about sort of what the space needs to look like. And confirming any venue costs. I think most of you will probably be able to do this training within your own facilities, but if for some reason you needed to rent a venue for that, you'll need to work with the director of the LWIA that holds your grant, since that would be a grant expenditure. So that's sort of what you need to be doing right now.
now and into early February is when you'll want to reserve the venue. So we think the space should have classroom style seating for 20 people. Rounds could also work, and of course that would be better for conversation, but everyone's going to have a laptop and you'll be doing, click training on the system, so classroom style might work better. You'll want to make sure that everyone has internet access, that there's a projector and a screen so that you can share the visuals that'll go along with your training. You'll need to make sure there's outlets for laptops at every seat. Like this, you'll be all day together on laptops interacting with IWDS 2.0. So an important thing to talk to your venue about is, can everybody charge their laptop? And then you'll need to plan for lunch breaks and refreshments. Those costs will be likely on the people who are participating in training. So you need to think about where the training space is and how people will be able to get lunch and water and breaks and all those things. And then once you've confirmed your dates, you'll share that information with Sarah so that she can maintain the master calendar. I want to stop here. These are the critical things that we're asking you to start doing right now, because we want to be able to get invitations out to your career planners and give them plenty of time to plan for these training events. So we need to get the dates locked in soon. Cassie.
Sarah, when do you need?
Oh, can you speak louder, Cassie? Can't hear you.
Sorry, I didn't have my
so much
mic
better.
by me. Okay, sorry about that. When do we need to get these dates to Sarah, as far as the location and the locations of the trainings, number one, and then number two, what if we solidify a space that already has computers to where they don't need to bring their laptops? Is that acceptable to do?
Yeah, as long as it's a computer that everyone will be able to log into and use, and that will be able to
Okay.
access the system, that would be fine. I would say by the 13th of February, Sarah, chime in if you had a different idea.
Yeah, and really, I think this can be a little more fluid, but we want to make sure that by the middle to end of February that you all have your dates selected. So, and I'll just kind of keep those. So if someone asks like, well, are we a 90? That's a joke. Are they setting up trainings? And I'll say, yeah, these are actually the trainings. So I'll echo Gina with like mid to end of February. It would be great to have you all know where your training is and what dates those are for. Robert?
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Okay. With my region dealing with 1, 2, and 6, to get the word out to those 2 and 6, the people that need to get training, who would coordinate that part of it? Would 2 and 6 inform me how many people is coming, so I know how many people will be attending? Because if you said 20, definitely would need everybody to bring their laptop, because we can't furnish laptops or computers. But being at the county, they may be able to access a free Wi-Fi to have access to the internet. And would that be fine for them to do the training if they do choose to bring their laptop with them? Would they need to do any type of printing if they are at a different location?
So the first question, which is how to make sure, how many people in the other LWIAs that you need to
Yes.
train, would be coordinating with those other LWIAs. So you're lucky enough that Rory's and Thaddeus are on the call from 6, and then coordinating with LWIA 2 to send that list of who are the people in those LWIAs who would need trained. And then from there, you can decide like, okay, if we're going to hover around 20 people for each cohort, where could this training be? So I think the first step to all of this is really you all understanding as regional trainers, what does your region look like? And then from there, you can pretty much determine your cohort and then space availability. As far as printing, you will not need to print during this. All of the information will either be kind of online where you can access, like PowerPoint wise, but there will be no printing.
Would I need to bring the presentation to so they can have it? Because sometimes people,
Yes.
if
Yes,
you're looking out for a laptop, yeah, because
you
you
will
don't want.
print.
I will
You
print it.
will
I
be
can print
printing.
it.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't mind doing that. I think that would be helpful for them to have like the presentation in front of them so they could go back and forth. Okay, and you said that 2 and 6 I would need to contact them. Will you provide me the contact person to each of those that I need to just make sure I'm contacting the right person to say how many will be coming or want to attend the training?
Yes.
Yeah. So I think, Robert, the way to think about it is you're going to ask the local areas that you're responsible for to send you the names and contact information of everyone that needs to receive this training.
Okay, got. I just want to know. I just need the person name just to be safe. I don't want to guess and say, oh, is this person? Come to find out it may be not
Yeah,
that
they
person.
need to send you the names and contact information of everyone who needs to receive the training. Then, as you'll see when we get a little further into our training checklist, the idea is that each trainer will schedule enough cohorts of training to accommodate all the people on your list, and then you'll send out a registration announcement. This training is coming. There are 3 options. Please click here to register. So then you'll know who has registered for each of your trainings. But we'll
Okay,
get there
thank
in a
you.
second.
All right.
Rory?
Yeah, sorry, I was actually just typing something in the chat, just saying that we'll do our best to help Robert with that. If he needs, if my director wants to kind of just coordinate and then just copy everybody on it to just so she's in the loop, I'll give her. I can give you Lisa's information, or you can always start reaching out to me and Thaddeus if you want, Robert.
Okay,
Some giving
I'll reach
ideas of
out to
that.
you, Rory. Man, you're
Yeah,
supposed to
and
be
then
my sidekick. You're supposed to be in that training with me, partner.
no. I know. If time permits, we'll definitely pitch in. Definitely.
Please do.
That's why we're
Please
on the
do.
calls to try to, be his backup so that we can always, uh, the help is needed. But my other question was, as far as like spaces and that, even though we're not a regional trainer, but would the regional trainers, um, did they? And you might have mentioned this in that earlier slide, and I apologize if I missed it or didn't catch it. But how do I say, kind of like it's like a traveling road show, like would they go if there's like 45 or 50, and I'm kind of just making sort of estimating or making this up, but if there would be with our combined LWIAs, for example, if there's like 67, staff users that need to be trained, are you saying that the regional trainers would identify logical cohorts and then possibly do the same training on the same, like, hey, we're going to cover customer pre-screening, intake module, whatever the modules, let's so call them, of the new system? Would they do that training for one cohort and then possibly then another day do that same training for another cohort? Or are you looking for venues or spaces that would accommodate all the IWDS staff users in the 2 or 3 local areas that the regional trainer is training into one space? Because for smaller spaces, we may be able to
It's going to be
host people here, but I wasn't sure how that worked. I don't know if it's like 40 or 60 people here, but 20 or something. We could maybe help out in that regard.
So each regional trainer will need to figure out a plan that works best for that particular region and the schedule of the regional trainer and the availability of the regional trainer. But the idea is that there will be 16 hours of training, in-person training, day 1 and day 2. There will be multiple instances of that 2-day training, right? So
okay,
if you have
That's what I
if you
thought.
have 50, if the regional trainer has 50 career planners that they need to train, maybe they're going to do 2 cohorts, or maybe they're going to do 3, and they're going to be like, it's, May 12th and 13th, June 1st and 2nd, June 10th and 11th, sign up for one of these cohorts. Those dates might be Saturdays. I just made them up, right? But don't take those dates, right? But that's how it will be. And each regional trainer, you're going to need to figure out, like, is your roadshow, is it a traveling roadshow? You're doing it one day in this town and another day in a different town, or is it always going to be in the same location and people are going to need to travel into you? The regional trainers will need to figure that out.
Okay. Because again, we can do like offline behind the scenes. We've got a little bit of time here. I'll see what our, because I don't want to, what's the old phrase? I have my mouth writing checks that my agency can't cash.
Coordinate with Robert.
I don't want to commit
you guys
to
can
anything,
talk about,
but I'm just thinking to help make it easier. We may be able to host, even just for our own, because we have, about 15,
coordinate with Robert
here.
And see what makes sense.
We may be able to host something here, but I'll look into that. But I was just trying to see, what I can do to help ease that with those logistics. So, I'll
the minutes will not reflect a commitment on your part, but we appreciate the idea. All right, Mark. Or maybe Mark, did you put your hand down?
No, sorry, didn't unmute. I did put my hand down, but for those of us at OET on this call and the others that weren't able to join today, is there an expectation that we'll be working with the folks from the local areas on these regional trainers? And the only reason I ask is because that's just someone else they need to contact to make sure that if we should be in attendance to help or observe or whatever, that they're making sure they let us know when those dates are being scheduled.
So mostly no. The only LVIA or LVIAs that are going to be kind of outliers are LVIA 7, who are likely going to need some state support with their kind of large cohort, and also LVIA 5. So the other regions of trainers will only really coordinate with the other LVIAs in their area. To Gina's point, like, Robert, is everybody coming to LVIA 1, or do you want to coordinate space with LVIA 6? That's, a lot of you all have different training regions. It's really about the amount of people that you need to train and then finding the best solution in a venue. So it could be that they all come to you, and it could be that it makes more sense for one trainer to go there. That's really going to be at the discretion of the regional trainers and the communication and kind of cohort size of the area. But our OET staff will likely work with LVIA 7, and we have more conversations set up to ensure that their area is well equipped. But as far as coordinating with that OET group, no, they'll just let me know when those trainings will be, and then they can kind of go forth from there. And I want to make sure that we get to all of this. Gina, do you want to?
Okay, so here it is, mid to end of February. You have reserved your dates. You know the total number of cohorts you're going to be offering. You know where they're going to be. You've settled those logistics. You are going to set up event registration, and Sarah and team are going to, we're going to help you figure out, understand how to do that and what system to use to do that. You're going to set up an event registration. You're going to send invitations to everyone in your region who needs to receive this training. Standard language will be provided to you so that everyone gets the same kind of consistent invitation. And then you'll include the agenda and the location and any pre-work instructions that folks might need to do, like if they need to register for the system or something. And you'll send the invitation out, and then you'll start tracking and confirming attendance, right? You'll need to do some periodic checks in the back end of the system to see how many people have registered, and to send nudges and prompts to make sure that everybody gets registered for training. So that's happening, mid to late February. Those announcements are going out. Then prior to the event, you'll need to do logistical prep. So you'll need to make sure that your access to IWDS 2.0 is working. You'll want to prepare the training materials, which we will give you explicit instructions on how to do this, right? But there'll be a set of things that you need to print, and you'll need to print copies for everyone who is registered for your training, for each instance of your training. so you'll have handouts and agendas and, simulation activities, and your instructions will tell you exactly like print all of this, put these things on the desk when people arrive, keep this other stack of things to hand out later. Like you'll be very clear about when you need to do that. And then you'll need to confirm AV equipment, whatever you need in order to be successful in delivering your training, right? You don't want to, depending on the space, maybe you're very familiar with the space, but if it's not a space you're familiar with, you're not going to want to walk in there day of and be surprised to discover that the projector is not working or that you needed a special USB cable that you didn't bring, right? So you're going to like check all that stuff so that you are confident when you show up for training that it's all in place. You go to the next slide. Then there's some other logistics things that you'll need to think about, right? Again, you need to think about the comfort of your training participants so that you'll need to think about how are they, how are they getting lunch? How are they getting, water, or what are they going to have access to during breaks? What do you need to tell them to plan for if you're training in a space where, coffee and water and snacks are not readily available? Do you need to remind them to bring those things? You just need to think through human comfort for the training. Make sure you've printed everything. And then for the post event, there will be an evaluation form for these sessions. And it's not been finalized yet, so maybe it'll be electronic, maybe it'll be paper, but you'll have, this will get updated, but you'll need to collect evaluations and attendance records and share that data with Sarah. We'll need to update so that we know who has completed the training and who has not yet completed the training so that the state has data about that. And then we'll be giving you resources for follow-up for participants. As a reminder, all regional trainers also need to be hosting regularly scheduled office hours that will presumably start after you've delivered your training. So, those will be, you'll have those set up and then you'll be communicating with everyone to make sure they're aware of them. Next slide. Oh, okay. I think that's the end of our logistics checklist. So any additional comments or questions?
On the last thing here where you said lunch can only be paid for if it is a working lunch. Define working lunch, because if we doing the training, going to different location, people is coming for the training, is that considered working lunch? When is it not a working lunch?
A working lunch is if the agenda continues while people are eating food. So actually I need to go back and double check. We can prepare the agenda both ways. And I think you'll just have to work with Sarah and the person who's administering your grant to kind of figure that out and think through what's going to make your training possible. I know some facilities might be very difficult to conduct your training if people need to drive far to get food.
Right,
so
right.
we can make sure that you have the agenda that you need to support the success of your day.
Okay, so we could also, if it's someplace like if I take them to the transportation place, it's a distance for it's gonna be a little drive for them to go outside and find food to eat. So I will be looking more for giving not an hour, but an hour and a half, because I'm gonna be considering the time driving and getting there, placing the order and stuff like that. I don't want to rush anybody back. I don't want no kind of accident. Want them to come back fully ready to part two of the training and stuff in that afternoon. So is that something that could also be reevaluated at the time of the training?
We can work with you to customize the agenda to meet the logistical needs that you have in your training space.
Okay, thank you.
And I'll also add, and I don't know how many of you were able to see the applications that your directors sent in for this NOFO. A lot of the directors have noted like a certain amount of money per training. So it may already be on their radar that people would want to bring in lunch or something like that. So I think we can work with, like what Gina said, we can work with you. We know a lot of the areas are spread out and may not have a lot of food choices. So if you need like a working lunch agenda, or if you are thinking people are going to have to travel out, we can have that conversation. But I think the first thing that you all really need to do, besides understanding or in addition to understanding how many career planners are in your area that you need to have in your cohort, is understanding and having the communication with both your director and then the directors of the other LWIAs, to make sure you have a communication line. If that's either you talk to your director and they can, talk to the others, we want to make sure that there's as much communication as possible. Cassie?
Hi. This might be a two-part question. So I'm looking at, my coworkers are sitting next to me, so we trying to plan this out already. Um, with the dates that we're choosing is usually the dates with calls like this. So at what point are you guys going to cancel those calls in June, and or May?
Yeah.
Because we have these calls on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and some of these trainings we may have to pick those days in June.
Yep. That's a really good point. So right now we have like space held for these Tuesday meetings. So we don't have specific agenda items necessarily all the way through July 1. Our priority is to make sure that you are prepared for those in-person trainings. So if one of them conflicts with these, in person, or I'm sorry, these Tuesday calls, then
Okay.
I think that's just a conversation you can say like, hey, we're going to be doing this training, and then we can have a conversation about what we were planning on calling. The biggest thing that we've talked about internally is just making sure that we are supporting you while you're training. So having like a touch point. So if you're saying like, hey, this thing keeps coming up, let's talk through it, just having a
Okay.
space for that. But I don't think at this time, and I know Gina, you've worked on the schedule, that if we don't have anything scheduled or something like that, it would take precedent over you training your region, because
Okay.
you all have
Yeah.
such a big region.
I guess
Okay.
I was kind of thinking of these Tuesday calls as sort of transitioning to office hours at that point, so that if you're not training that Tuesday, you come, right, and you support each other and you talk through what worked and what's hard, and we troubleshoot together.
Okay.
But if you are training, that's what you're doing. You're training. Same with
And
development. Like
and
hopefully those Thursday calls have petered out, but if there's still Thursday calls, like you aren't going to it if you're delivering your training.
Okay, and that kind of like the segue to my last question. So after we're done with our trainings and then it launches, are we going to have those follow-up calls to see how did it go, what went wrong, what happened? Are we going to have those calls as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I doubt they'll be weekly unless, we'll just see.
Okay.
But we will want to continue touching base with you all because this is so new and it will shift, both system and procedure. We want to just make sure, to Gina's point, that we're here and available for feedback. And if there's something that we need to talk about, or if there's a reoccurring issue, it likely isn't just isolated. We will likely need to create a plan or, support you all in that way. So on my list is kind of July onward. What does the support look like? We are creating information to go on a learning management system that will kind of go out in kind of early fall so that local areas will have that as a resource as well. But my plan kind of at OET is to make sure that we have kind of system updates or office hours, and especially with you all having touch points. So yes, we'll be supporting. I doubt it will be every Tuesday, but
Okay, and one last question. I'm not gonna promise, but one last question. With this slide deck, we are going to have everything. You might have said this already. We're gonna have everything we need to work with by when again? I missed that date.
So when we come together for the Train the Trainer boot camp,
Okay.
you're going to get at the Train the Trainer boot camp, you're going to get everything.
Okay.
Right? You're going to get your facilitator guide, which is going to be a gigantic document with slides and talking points and
Okay.
Stage directions.
Okay.
And then the virtual products, right? Like the PowerPoint and all the handouts.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. Thank you.
And I think that answered Crystal's question in the chat. For lunches and things like that, using your local policies and or if there's likely a contact in your local area, but you will be provided, to Gina's point, you'll be provided the agendas and the slide deck and the facilitator guide. You'll have all of the content. You'll have been trained on it. You'll have reviewed it. You'll have had that boot camp where it's really going through each thing. You'll have had the system end-to-end training, and then you'll have scheduled these and kind of show up with the packet ready. So the only thing of the trainings that we're not going to be able to kind of directly plan is this logistic portion of it. So that's why we wanted to make sure it was on your radar with plenty of time to make those local and regional plans.
And if I could just say one more thing too, Sarah, when you're making these plans, you need to think about your personal endurance for delivering training as part of your scheduling, right? Like these 16 hours of training will be intense for you. You'll be fully supported, but also it requires a certain amount of energy and presence and positivity. And so you need to think too, if I don't build a lunch break in for myself, how might that affect me and my ability to deliver a fantastic afternoon of training? The care and feeding of trainer also should factor into your thinking through of some of those logistics.
Yeah. Okay. I know there were a lot of questions. We're gonna come back next week and kind of walk through, do a light PD on kind of the logistics of scheduling in-person things. So, but until then, my homework is to make sure all of the last week's or last month's material is on the teams that Kelly created, and as well as the spreadsheets with all of the career planners, so you have access to that. From there, you all will need to either work with the other LWIA or review those lists to make sure that you have a total number of career planners identified, and then kind of determine how many cohorts you'll need. Discuss and identify training space. Again, likely your directors have identified a training space within your application. And then having that conversation both internally and with the LWIAs in your region to see if it is logistically accessible to everyone and your trainer, and then identify some dates between May and June. No, this is a lot, and we're going to come back again next week and go over it again and answer any questions, but that's what we believe your next steps should really be. Robert?
Quick question. Here go one. Okay. Some of my staff have like limited access. Let's say for the resource room, who just basically entering clients as they come in, just to set them up for career advisors. The career advisor do the eligibility aspect, do all that training and whatever. Then I have the employment team. They basically getting it after eligibility. They may also do eligibility, but very limited. My question is, do I go to like maybe to the case manager who's doing everything first, set them up, get them started? Because if I'm doing the resource room, they just basically just adding in the basic information and then it gets shuffled to somebody else. How do we decide how we want to train? Because the job center may not need all that training I'm gonna give the career advisor because they don't set up that way. They just set up to do the basic. What's your thoughts about that?
So what I would say is you'll likely have to communicate with the directors of the other LWIAs in your LWIA to make sure that you're not pulling all of one staff away from their kind of normal role. So it wouldn't just be like every single person who mans the resource room is gone for 2 days. That you would ensure that there is coverage in their kind of normal day-to-day, but people can also attend training. Does that make sense?
Perfectly. This
Okay.
just give me something to go with, because now I could like pick. I wanted to make sure I'm clear and precise on this, because this way I could set up, okay, we're going to set up maybe some career advisors, some business service, some job center. Now, based on the training y'all get, now if the job center say, okay, we got enough training that we need for our part, then they might say, okay, we're stepping away because we're not going to do all this other part. Now we can learn it as the months go by, but we don't need this intense training. Give it to the people who are going to be doing this more focus on doing what you requested here.
Yeah, and your kind of view on local roles versus the new system will be more ironed out as you get the training as well. So like right now it's kind of, I know it's hard because you haven't seen all the information yet to have a good idea of how it's going to affect a different, like your local area or a different local area's procedure or roles that they currently have. But that will make more sense as we go forward. But I would definitely say as as you're scheduling these, making sure that they're in communication with their director and you're in communication with your director so that all of the roles are accounted for and yet you can still continue to do the day-to-day is going to be important. So we'll just keep on communicating with each other. Yep,
And
Tori. Oh, sorry, Robert.
I was going to just ask one, and for the outside one, at least I'm glad that I do only have rarely smart, less than 5 that I got to worry about. Do I train the outside entities later or just focus on our main group of people within the LWIAs?
And you're talking about subgrantees, like for,
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
I think that question was asked earlier and I can't remember who asked it.
I
You can,
asked it.
oh, that's
Yeah.
right.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
because I think
Um,
we're kind of on the same page. I think Robert's trying to ask basically how do we communicate to the LWIAs who they should be sending to this training? Is this really going to be focused on career planners and their roles from those that are like beginning to end? Because we do have like in our area, we have subgrantees that they don't necessarily do the certification part, for example. So they do all the like pre stuff and they gather eligibility type things. But our career planners are the ones that are actually meeting with that customer, doing the assessment, certifying them. But then the sub grantees also have some roles, right? They do case noting and things like that. So how do we like, where's that training going to come in at? Like, I wouldn't think that they need to go and sit through a full, career planner training if they only have limited roles. Like, what's the communication about the different roles in the new system, or is that something we're going to be learning soon?
Exactly. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
We're on the same page. I don't
yeah.
want to have to be doing no full-time training on somebody. I don't want put it this way. I don't want to go to 10 and this staff is only need limited to 3, because then that's not going to serve the purpose. I don't need them to know the rest of the 7. So if we could keep this thing to a point where we could get the people that need it, because guess what? Once they start to know the system, they also could help each other. And then the question will start coming back to me. If I can answer it, I can answer it. If not, I could check with DCO and say, hey, or you guys, I should say, hey, what y'all think? And this is how we're gonna start learning the system. Because in the beginning, we're all gonna be rusty. We're gonna get better as we continue doing the training, because we're gonna see some loophole that we made a mistake on. And we need to clarify this a little bit better. So thank you. I just wanted to say that
Yeah.
before we.
And I know we're a little bit over, but I would like to say every local area has different roles and procedures that we're gonna have to really think about the level of which they need to be trained. That will make more sense as we kind of go through the journey or the new customer journey of IWDS 2.0 and like what level they'll need to be involved. For kind of people that maybe only need to know one element, well, I would agree they probably don't need to be at a whole kind of in-person 2-day event. But we'll be providing again, kind of like for reports and things like that, kind of outside training from this career planner journey that you all can share with them as well. So I can't give like a finite answer about each specific thing. But I would say, like Tori did the question earlier, it might be a good idea to involve like one point person to Rory's point in the chat to kind of be a trickle down to be involved in training, depending on the role of that subgrantee. But that's going to vary from, subgrantee to subgrantee and area to area. Okay. So we're over. Thank you all for, being so interactive today. It's really helpful, to know where you all are at on everything. If there's nothing else, we'll go ahead and hop off and then we'll be in contact. My next steps are to make sure everyone on these calls are on the calendar invites for these incoming events and finalizing that teams. And then there's a couple other notes, but if there's nothing else, I want to thank you all for your time today. And you'll be getting an email from me shortly with all the links to the new teams and things.
Well, thank you, Sarah. Have a nice rest of the day, and I hope it's not too cold down there like it is up here.
It's not warm, but
You got that
fingers
right.
crossed. Okay.
I see some people out here writing it's cold on the car. I laugh.
Definitely chilly. Well, thanks, Robert. Thanks,